Today on Reese Dixon, we are making these mod deconstructed Santa ornaments. Hey everybody, it's Teresa with ReeseDixon.com, and I am back again today with another ornament tutorial for our 60s inspired mod Christmas tree. This one is inspired from some ad work that I had found online from the period, and it was so amazing. I love this element of design during this mid-century modern time of just basic shapes, like lots of geometric shapes, deconstructed elements, and that's totally what inspired this Santa, is trying to break Santa down into the simplest shapes that he was recognizable as, and then stringing the whole thing together out of shrinky dinks and wire. I had so much fun making this ornament, so let me show you how you can make it too. Here's the 4 pieces I have cut out, but not shrunk yet, obviously, for my mod Santa ornaments. I didn't use a pattern, I just used a ruler. So I wanted to kind of go over the pieces so you could see. For one, each piece kind of lines up with the one before it, or each piece for the outfit at least. The boots are a different story. So what I actually ended up doing was cutting a giant triangle and then cutting the top off to make that outfit. So this is about 2.5 inches tall and about 1 3/4 inches across. This is 4 inches across, about 3.5 inches tall, and 1 3/4 to line up at the top. So once I cut that in half, I just cut a little notch in the middle of that top line to create, like a collar or neckline. And then I had to cut his pants. So again, it lines up with the one above it. So this is 4 inches, and this is 3 inches, and this is 2 inches. So I basically just drew 2 parallel lines, 2 inches apart, and then I cut them at the angle that would bring the 4-inch line to meet the 3-inch line. So just, use your ruler, line it up, draw your line. It's not intimidating. You just have to, measure. And so then you need the boots. So these I've actually already colored with a Sharpie, but these are 2 inches and 2 inches. And this whole piece is like 2.5 inches. So I cut a rectangle to those sides, like 2.5 inches tall with 2-inch sides. And then to make the boots, I kind of measured in 1/2 inch and I cut in 1/2 inch. So, this little corner is set off 1/2 inch on both sides. And then once I had this 1/2 inch deep, I again just used my ruler to make this 1/2 inch point match up with the outer point, and got my angle that way. Then I just colored the whole thing with a Sharpie, and again using my ruler, I scored a line right down the middle to kind of show that they're 2 different boots, put up next to each other. So that it really gives the effect of 2 separate legs by leaving that tiny white line, which is again just, scoring. So before you stick these in the oven, you need to make your holes, because once they shrink and they get thick, there's no getting through it. So I just have my little hole punch here, and you just punch right through it. It's super easy before it's shrunk. So you'll need 1 on the top to hang it from, like the ornament loop. And then you'll need 2 on each sides, making sure that they line up. So you can even just take your 2 pieces, line them up like that, and then punch, so that they'll line up when you go to assemble them, and they'll hang nice and straight that way. Okay. Like so. So you do 2 on each side. So I've got to do 2 more there to line up with those holes. And those 2 will need to line up with the boots like that. So most of them I'm just putting straight into the corners. You just want to make sure on the bottom of the pants you don't go out to the corners because they won't reach the boots. You want to come in a little bit closer so that you can line them up there. But if you're holding them together like that, when you punch your holes, you'll get that automatically. So once your holes are punched, you can put it straight into the oven. You don't have to color your Sharpie ahead of time. You can add that color later like I'm going to be doing with these pieces. But I did this as kind of an experiment and I felt like it worked well. So it's optional basically. So I'm going to go put these in the oven and just follow the package instructions on how to get these to shrink as flat as you can manage, but it's really not that big of a deal. Here's how they look now that they are out of the oven. And so now we're going to add some color. Now, shrinky dinks are awesome because you can add color in 1,000,001 ways. If you use a frosted shrinky dink, you can color before you go into the oven, and then as it shrinks, it really concentrates. I did not do that for a couple of reasons. 1, this just happened to be the shrinky dink stuff that I had on hand. 2, I really loved the super saturated color I could get by applying it on top afterwards. So that's what I'm going to do now with nail polish. This is like the cheap, drugstore Sally Hansen kind, but it's also really good. Like I found that it met that good middle ground of not being too expensive, but not being so cheap it would just flake off. So I just am going to pour a bunch of this on and spread it around. Because of the white, you get a good bright red, but it also means that you'll have to do a couple of coats to really get a somewhat opaque look to it. So I'm just going to paint this. Hold still, you little guy. And let that dry super thoroughly, especially if you're doing a thick coat like I just did. And do that for the front pieces, the back pieces, and the edges for all 3 of the outfit pieces. For this, you're definitely going to need to come back in one way or the other. The Sharpie doesn't get that big thick side, and so I have some black nail polish that I can come in and do the side. But you'll see, maybe, can you see that that's maybe not, but it's very light. You can really see a lot of white through there. So that's why I ended up liking the Sharpie, because it actually got pretty solid color that the nail polish I have to do several coats to get. So I'm just gonna add my several coats along the side here. I just found the Sharpie ended up saving me some trouble. So I've got some painting to do, and once I get the paint the way that I want it, it's time to assemble. Now that your pieces are painted and dry, it's time to string them together. I've got this 28 gauge wire that you can find in any jewelry section, and I'm going to poke this through that hole we made, bend it around, and just give it a twist. This wire is so thin that you can easily just use your fingers, but if you are comfortable with your pliers, that'll be a great solution too. And then once you get that twisted around a few times, I'm going to take my little wire cutters here, snip that edge off, and then come back with these flat nose pliers and really give it a good squish so that edge blends right in. Then I'm going to cut this wire, leaving myself about 1 inch just over so I have some room to work. And then I'm going to repeat all of that on the other side. Now, with one side of my wires done, I need to hook them onto the next piece. So to keep things level, I'm going to put them both through the holes at the same time and kind of line that up. And then once I'm happy with how it's hanging, I'm going to squish those wires up, and that will hold it in place so I don't have to worry about it moving around too much. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing, just twisting those wires around, like so. So that each piece will be suspended by the wire. Ooh, that poked me. Okay, so you get the idea, and you're just gonna repeat that for the boots coming off here and the hat coming off of here. And then once you get the hat done, just take a little piece of fishing line or embroidery thread or whatever and thread it through that top hole to make your loop. And there is your mod Santa all ready to hang and be so super cool. If in the, the wire twisting, you scrape off some of the paint, you give it a little chip, just like your fingernails, just come on back in and touch that up right there. Doop, doop, doop. There we go. All better. And then just let that dry before you put it on your tree. I swear every time I make an ornament, I feel like it might be my favorite, but this is right at the top of that list. I just love how graphic it is. I love how Santa looks when it's just these simple triangles and what would you call this? A rhombus? I don't know. I just think it looks great. And it's always fun to pull out those toys you loved to play with when you were a kid, like the Shrinky Dinks, and use it for your new grown-up design ideas. So I hope that you guys will have fun making this like I did. If you try your hand at it, I'd love to see the results. Make sure and subscribe so you can see all the rest of my tutorials and of course how this tree looks when it's all put together. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.